Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our District 5 Town Hall meeting. On behalf of our pastor and first lady, I would like to welcome you to United Christian Faith Ministries live stream. United Christian Faith Ministries is seated in District 5. We have a vested interest in the leadership of this district. If you are visiting with us for the first time, please text guest to 225-250-1970. Text guest to 225-250-1970. We would love to connect with you. I'm Christy Perry, Director of United Excel Social Justice Institute here at United Christian Faith Ministries. United Excel is dedicated to the education, advocacy, and empowerment of the Baton Rouge community and the surrounding areas. We use what we call our MEDS model. We're fighting for social justice morally, economically, domestically, and socially, while promoting peace and justice around the world. United Excel Social Justice Institute is a research-based organization designed to bring knowledge and awareness to the community. We provide a systemic process on how to address social injustice through 5 core areas: education, research, negotiation, confrontation, and resolution. If you would like to learn more about our Social Justice Institute, or you would like to become a part of our wonderful team, you can simply text UXL to 225-250-1970. Again, that's UXL to 225-250-1970. Today, we're going to talk about a little bit about the research portion, or we're here to do the education portion of our model. Legislators in at least 27 states have introduced, pre-filed, or carried out over 250 bills with restrictive provisions. Voter registration suppression or voter suppression is real. Last week, I had the very fortunate opportunity to join our Mayor President, Sharon Western Broom, in the filming of the film Otis Moss. Mr. Moss understood the importance of voting. In the film, he discussed, or his kids discussed, how he walked 6 miles to vote for the first time, only to be told he had to go to the next town. After walking to the next town, he was later told he had to walk another 6 miles to a different polling place. After walking those 6 miles, he was then told that the polls were closed and he was not able to vote. Like Moss, many of the ones before us faced those challenges. Today, we continue to face challenges when it comes to voter registration, when it comes to our access to voting. History has an interesting way of repeating due to our lackadaisical behaviors, our carelessness, and sometimes our failure to just get informed. Today, I encourage you, if you are not a registered voter, get registered to vote. And if you are a registered voter, please exercise your right to vote. You can get registered to vote by simply going online and registering at govote.com, GEAUX, vote.com, or you can do like myself and many others. You can download the app, Go Vote, GEAUX, vote on your mobile device, and you can get a list of things related to your polling place. You can also view a sample ballot and change your registration address and much more. So I encourage you today to go get registered and vote. Today, we are here to hear from our candidates. We have several candidates that we're going to present to you today. And I'm going to just do a brief introduction. I'm going to take a few moments and do a brief introduction of each of those candidates. Here at UCFM, these young men are no strangers. We're going to take a few minutes and we're going to share. I want you all, the audience, to take a few minutes and share this live. You may know someone in District 5 who needs this information, or you can share this information to individuals who will be voting on Saturday for their council person. Take a few moments, share this live, and ask everyone from District 5 that you know to join in. We will hear from each of the candidates, and at the end, we will get questions and answer those questions from you. So you can just type those questions in the chat box. We would love to hear those questions, and our candidates will answer them. First, we have with us Mr. Daryl Landis. He's a lifelong resident of District 5. He's a product of EBR Public School System. He earned a bachelor's, master's, and Juris Doctorate degree with honors from D Southern University. He also served as an EBR school board member, and he authored the resolution to change the name of Robert E. Lee High School to Liberty High School. He fought to rebuild Glen Oaks High School, bringing a $30 million investment back to the community. He has negotiated over $1 million in new infrastructure across North Baton Rouge, and he donated nearly $30,000 of his board salary to the students in his districts in the form of scholarships and other support. Welcome, Daryl Landis. Next, we have with us Councilman Daryl Hurst. Councilman Hurst is a servant leader who was raised by an educator. He accepted a football scholarship to Southern University and received a bachelor's degree in marketing. He's also the owner of an ATT franchise. He created a nonprofit organization in sports to serve the inner city young people. He serves as parking director for the Union City Chapel, and he is married to Shan Hilton Hurst. Welcome, Councilman Hurst. Next, we have with us Daniel Bengal. Daniel Bengal is a political strategist, community organizer, community activist, and motivational speaker. He is noted for his use of social media to promote charitable, religious, and social causes. He is the owner, senior writer, and publisher of Pinpoint News. He is also the host of an urban radio digital show in Louisiana, The Daniel Bengal Show. The show talks about social issues that affect urban communities by presenting positive solutions. Bengal is an elected member of the Louisiana Democratic State Central Committee, representing District 29. Bengal also served as 4th Vice Chairman of the Louisiana Democratic Party Executive Leadership Team. We also have with us tonight our beautiful moderator, Sister Retha Wright. Retha Wright has served on our social justice team since its inception. She is the director of our community engagement and the organizer of this town hall. So remember, everyone, type those questions in the chat box. Okay, Sister Retha, have at it. I look forward to a wonderful town hall and great conversations.
And thank you, Dr. Perry, and welcome, gentlemen. And I just want to thank you all for being so versatile. And when we had to shift to this virtual environment, I thank you for that. To those who are listening out there, we just want to give you just a little brief thing of what we're doing tonight. The gentlemen that you see on the platform tonight, they are vying for the council seat for District 5. Now, the Metro Council, that is your legislative branch for the city of Baton Rouge and the East Baton Rouge Parish. Now, there are 12 members. They are not the only one, so they have 11 other partners that also help them make the decisions about what we get in District 5. So we need to make sure that you're educating yourself about that. They have regular meetings that are scheduled on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month at 4 p.m. in the council chamber. And you can also view this on the government channel as well. So familiarize yourself with the entire Metro Council members and see how and when the projects and how the projects are voted on for your districts, so you can measure the accountability for the person that you have elected to be your councilman. Finally, I encourage everybody to read that plan of government. That's history. There's some history in that. So read that, follow the plan of government, and you can access that online through the City of Baton Rouge Metro Council website. So what we want to do at this time, before we get into the questions that we have from people, we want each one of you gentlemen to take a few seconds, well, we'll say 2 minutes, and we want you to tell us about your platform and why you think that you would be the perfect person for the Metro Council of District 5. So we'll start with you, Mr. Bengal.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Well, my name's Bengal. I am a lifelong resident as well of North Baton Rouge District 5. I believe I'm the best candidate because I understand how it is to grow up in poverty. I understand how it is to overcome poverty and make a difference for our community. I believe in these tough times, you need someone who understands what it takes to progress our community. I believe our community is fundamentally engulfed in poverty, and we have to wage war on poverty in our people. One of the things that I want to do in this community specifically is deal with this crime. I think crime is a comprehensive issue. I believe it's holistic. I think it takes many stakeholders from all over our community to come together with collaborative efforts in order to have a foundation to deal with the crime in our communities. I believe that it has to start with education. I believe education is the foundation of everything. I believe failing education is what gives us high incarceration, high truancy, and high recidivism. Until we understand the bare basis of why we are in the issue that we're in, there's no way we can solve the problems that we have. I believe I'm the best candidate because I've lived through it. I've lived through poverty. I want to be an example to the people in my community that although you may come from short beginnings, you can overcome it all and you can make a difference. I'm a graduate of Northwest State University, a graduate of Southern University A&M College. I'm also a recent student graduate of Southern University Law Center. So I understand that education is the way to be able to liberate our people specifically out of areas like this. I do believe that we need to take inventory on our blighted community. I think it's time to turn blight into businesses. For too long, we don't have representation in our business community and able to share resources like other organizations like BRAC and those organizations that have resources to be able to share with those businesses. I want to bring those businesses to the table and show them that there are resources to be able for them to put back into their business to be able to hire people who want a second chance in life. I also want to make sure that we understand there is a mental health epidemic in North Baton Rouge. We need to have more access to mental health facilities. We need to make sure that we recognize and educate people that everybody has mental health problems, that everybody cannot cope with mental health at the same rate. So until we're able to identify and take the stigma off of mental health, then we're able to educate more people and we can lower some of these petty crimes, specifically in Monticello area where they're drag racing throughout, where we have to put some speed bumps, or through Glen Oaks Drive, where we have to put some speed bumps so people can stop, or stealing out of cars and all some of these petty crimes. So that's one of the things I want to focus on. So crime prevention, economic development, more access to mental health facility, and also more access to healthier food options in our community.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bengal. Thank you for your comments. Next, we'll hear from Councilman Hurst.
Hey, so thank y'all for having me today. Amazing church, amazing word when I get the opportunity to visit. I want to tell y'all that when I was asked after the appointment, what were my top 3 initiatives, it was economic development, and economic development. Because without growth in North Baton Rouge, there is no growth in North Baton Rouge. And economic development does a few things. In order for economic growth to happen, education has to go up, because education equals income, which equals outcome. So I look forward to partnering with my school board member to create programs in schools that allow us to deter crime. Crime is a derivative of poverty in most cases. It's survival skills. So what do you do until economic growth happens? You put youth programming in place that allows that to happen. And we do it a number of ways, through community centers, through partnerships with churches like yours, as well as through crime prevention districts, where we can allocate some of those dollars towards youth programming, because most of the crime happens after school, which we talked about, after school programs, during the holidays and during the summertime. All right. So away from crime prevention districts, which I'm sure we'll get into later, we talk about the 3-part plan, which is building business corridors that are inviting to our community. So creating micro business districts, which I'll probably explain later through your questioning. Number 2 is revitalization of neighborhood associations and crime prevention districts, so we can have proactive things happening versus reactive. And then the third part is I have a plan that can take anybody from welfare/poverty to disposable income in 2 to 4 years with home ownership in the community the 5th year. And so when you do that, renters have become a big problem in our community, and slumlords. So when you own your property, you take value in your property, you don't tear your walls down, the neighborhood looks great, you keep your yard good, and it becomes a residual effect, not just from you to your neighbors as well. So thank you for having me here today. Economic growth is my number 1, 2, and 3 initiative in the community, and I look forward to explaining to you guys in more detail why that is so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lannis, your turn.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing? How you doing, UCFM family? It is great to be here. My name is Darius Landis. I'm your East Baton Rouge Parish School Board member, and I'm also the executive director for the 100 Black Men of Metro Baton Rouge. Since the beginning of this race, I've said time and time again that crime is going to be my number 1 initiative. I'm the only candidate as it stands right now inside of this race that has a crime prevention plan that starts with right directly inside of our communities, and it starts inside of those high crime communities. And what it calls for is putting gunshot monitors inside of every high crime neighborhood. It also calls for making sure that we have license plate readers for every HOA and civic association inside of those communities, and also making sure that we have anti-violence response teams on the ground every single time that any form of trauma that is associated with crime or violence prevention takes place inside of our communities. And also the very first Guns for Jobs program, because what I do understand is when you can change a person's livelihood by taking guns off the streets, I think that that's the way that we should go, and I think our community feels the same way. There are several different things when you talk about economics that I want to definitely support, one of which is going to be cooperative associations where our community has direct ownership of properties and businesses across District 5 when it comes to grocery stores, when it comes to movie theaters and businesses of that nature. I think that our community should have the first right of refusal to say what those businesses look like, and also have a true voice in saying what is needed inside of our neighborhoods, rather than people coming in, such as developers, telling us what it is that's best for our community. So I'm looking forward to this conversation tonight, and I'm really forward to looking to all of the plans. I think when it really comes down to it, every single candidate inside of this race is a very good person. But I think what we have to differentiate tonight is what is great for District 5 in terms of vision and moving us forward, and how do we differentiate it for just being good. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. And y'all really made me feel bad because I think y'all just nailed all the questions just about, but we're going to go through the process anyway. And to those who are listening, you all feel free to put some questions in the chat and we will entertain those at the end. So my first question, and it has to do with crime. It says, with so much focus on crime in our city, what will you do to make sure that this is a major topic of discussion on the Metro Council and inform the citizens of District 5 that you are taking measures to create a safe environment for them? Because we don't hear this on Metro Council meeting. You know, we hear about crime every day in the news and the things that happen. But when we get to the Metro Council meeting, we were looking for more, because you are the legislative branch. What do you do, and what are you doing to take preventive measures for some of this? Mr. Bengal.
Well, first I want to say that there are a lot of things that are in place. We've already have gunshot spotters in many parts of our community already, and we already have a lot of laws on the book already. The issue, we don't have anybody to enforce those laws, which means we have a limited amount of police activity because of we are the 250,000 people in the city of Baton Rouge limits, yet we don't have the amount of officers for the capacity of people. So we first need to put more boots on the ground in order to be able to enforce some of these laws that we currently have. Also, Glen Oaks is an unincorporated portion of the parish, which means there are parts of the parish where there is not a lot of activity with law enforcement, specifically with our city. So one of the ideas was to recommend perhaps putting a substation in the Glen Oaks community where we get quicker response in terms of emergency, as well as deter some criminal activity. The reason why crime has not been an issue on the Metro Council is because crime is affecting everyone nationally. it's not just a District 5 or Baton Rouge. It has gone up nationally among the entire country. So we all are feeling on that. And that's because people are not working. People are not being able to get to things that they should be doing to occupy their time. And again, specifically in our community, we're talking about the average education level of East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, 8th grade. Many of these people are uneducated who are making these crimes. One of the things that I want to perhaps is a lot of the properties specific in our community are air properties, which many people rent these properties out, and a lot of the activities.
That may be another question. I'm sorry, that may be another question. So let's get through these questions so we'll have time to finish. We got about 15 minutes to go through them, and but thank you. You're on point. Miss Councilman Hurst, that was about bringing more the crime topic to the Metro Council.
So there's a lot that has to happen behind the scenes before you can present it in front of a live audience, right? You don't want to bring lack of information to the table. So I will tell you, just in my studies, I've spoken with Senator Regina Barrow. I've had conversations with U.S. Congressman Garrett Graves on a number of occasions. And so a lot of the programs that help change you from welfare to disposable income, one of the issues is that they cross local, state, and federal levels when you talk about childcare, transportation, higher education, GED programs. And so what we're planning on doing is housing all of those resources into a single facility that will allow them to go. I've even talked to College Temple Jr., the third, with the Board of Regents to make sure that we have higher education represented and Louisiana Small Business Development centers under one roof so that we can have that economic growth. That is the way that we alleviate crime one family at a time, by changing that median income. But until that changes, the first thing that I did when I got into the seat was I met with Mayor Broome. And I said, Mayor Broome, how can we say that we're fighting crime when our community centers are closing at 5 o'clock and the kids get off the bus at 4:30? She said, Daryl, what do you need me to do? With open arms, she said, hey, send me the budget. I'll approve the funding to keep the community centers open after 5 p.m. So I've created a partnership with ExxonMobil to do virtual reality gaming, because the future of design, while the kids see it as gaming, the future of design is being able to put the goggles on and walk through your future home. So it turns into a job 5 to 10 years down the road. I've worked with Jacobs Engineering, where their CEO has come to our community meeting to validate the partnership that we have in the community. And they're going to do a STEM program. And so I'm not trying to get away. I see you about to cut me off. But when we talk about youth programming to mitigate crime, when we talk about the crime prevention districts, which I've already developed the Glen Oaks Area Neighborhood Association, and I've developed the Delmont Area Neighborhood Association. Those were we were trying to push them to get on the ballot with Senator Regina Barrow to be developed through legislature, but we missed it by one day. So it'll happen next spring. But there is crime prevention districts that are being developed already. And part of that money is going to go towards youth programming. Now, in terms of Shot Spotters, I just spoke with the Shot Spotter reps at Noble. I am not a fan of Shot Spotter. My first or second week in office, I saw bodies on the ground in Zion City. Had to push my daughter back because the feet were sticking up. The feet were sticking up above the throw that was on the body. So it's not that we don't know where the gunshots are coming from, because we know where the bullets are. We see them on the ground. We have shell casings everywhere. The problem is that we're not saying anything. And Shot Spotters only tell you where the bullets are coming from, but they're not telling you what's happening. And what I've talked, and the final thing is, as it relates to Shot Spotters, I've worked with the DA, I've worked with the sheriff, and I've worked with Chief Murphy Paul. Shot Spotters are too expensive. They're $80,000, and you have to move the Shot Spotters when the crime moves. And so it's about $60,000 to move the Shot Spotters. And I'm gonna give you my final thing. Crime prevention, it's great to say we can start day one, but it has to have a funding source. And if you understand the plan of government, you have to have a funding source to do these things in your community. Without a funding source, you don't control the crime in your area, and you leave it up to the mayor or anybody else to determine where they're going to put any of these resources in your community. Crime prevention districts are the only way to do it, because you own your backyard. Without doing that, you leave it up to somebody else to tell you where crime is happening in your neighborhood. And even though we have ARPA dollars out there, those ARPA dollars are for the city of Baton Rouge and not District 5. So without a funding source, there is no way to control crime in your area. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Mr. Lannis.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. What I can say is there absolutely is a funding source. In fact, the very idea of bringing gunshot monitors and license plate readers came from Mayor Sharon Weston Broome, as well as Chief of Police. This is the most important thing. When you think about crime prevention districts, they don't work as a standalone prevention district, because if they did, we wouldn't see this much crime happening throughout our city. Just last year, we had record crime of over 149 deaths inside of Baton Rouge alone. And when you look at crime prevention districts, it's an incurred cost that is associated to every single resident. And for a lot of those people, they just simply can't afford that. When with the things we're talking about right now, they're already completely going to be paid for. No one has to raise any money. We don't think about a tax, a bond, a fee, or anything of that nature. And when you look at every single one of my push cards, what you're going to see is it says we need to put gunshot monitors in every single high crime neighborhood, not just in District 5, because crime does not only and solely exist inside of District 5, it exists all across our community. So what I would say to that is the best way to alleviate crime throughout our areas is that we do have to talk about it. And I think that when you look at programs such as I'm sorry, slipped my mind. You look at programs such as the ones that ask citizens to come forth and pay money in terms of being a witness to a crime, and simply they don't give enough. That's the reason why when you look at programs like the Guns for Jobs program, is changing people's livelihood. And when we have those types of programs, I think that changes the position that you put people inside of. But when you look at any standalone program, we have programs going on all across our city. The people that need to be inside of those programs are simply choosing not to utilize those types of programming that we have going across our city. So we have to be more innovative about the way that we approach them, but also accessibility has to be a top priority inside of those areas, because we cannot simply just think that those people are going to continue to come to us for help. We have to be able to go to them, and we have to be able to allow them to have holistic family supports, not just those that are affected by crime inside of our areas, but also those neighbors, because they have lingering effects that are attributed to crime.
Thank you. The next question is sort of relates more to safety. And there seem to be a great deal of dark streets and areas in the district. Have you noticed, and when you take that on as part of your crime prevention initiative, having lights are a part of safety? An example that one person submitted specifically cited Oak Villa from Greenwood Springs to South Choctaw. Mr. Bengal, are you?
I couldn't understand your question.
The question is, we have too much darkness in the city, not enough lights, and they were saying in the district. Have you noticed that in the district that is dark? And one question specifically pointed out the area of Oak Villa, Greenville Springs to Choctaw.
Okay. So you're asking specifically about the dark streets on Oak Villa?
If you're familiar with that, but if you're not, just speak on dark streets in general in our neighborhoods.
No, I'm familiar with everywhere in Baton Rouge. I just didn't understand your question. But yeah, I do believe there are some dark streets, specifically in Baton Rouge, that do need more lighting. I don't necessarily know if those particular streets are the streets that have the crime-related activity, specifically on Oak Villa from Florida to Choctaw, because other than the break park that's on that street, it's not too many residents on that street. But I do believe there needs to be more lighting on that street, and specifically in other neighborhoods where individuals have reported that they would like to see more visibility in terms of lighting. So that's an easy fix. Just the community come forth and we can find a way we can see if we can put more lighting in some of these areas so that we can put more visibility on certain activities. Okay,
thank you. And I'm gonna try to speed up a little bit because it looks like we're getting some questions in the chat that we need to address for the audience.
Speeding up on my turn, huh?
Okay. So Councilman Hurst, if you could just briefly speak on dark areas and putting proper lighting in those areas for the citizens to feel that net of safety?
So that's not a District 5 issue. That's a City of Baton Rouge issue. So I've gotten that question a number of times. And what I've done is contacted Energy, who is responsible for the lights. I will quote Mayor Broom that she said, well, let me not get it directly, but her response to that same question was, I do not screw in light bulbs. I am the mayor, but we have someone that does it, and that is Energy. And so what's happening on I-10 is the wiring is, and 110 is the wiring is going out. All around our city, Energy is blaming it on Ida, and we're holding their feet to the fire because it's not Ida. It's more than Ida. They are not doing their job, and our job is to make sure that they do their job. Now, the second piece of it is people. So as it relates to streetlights, as much as we want to do, we are at the mercy of Energy. All we can do is hold their feet to the fire. Okay. From the mayor's office on down.
Okay.
As it relates to private businesses, which is another question that you'll get, the business owners are responsible for lighting on their property. So even if it's a lot of crime in the business area, if the street is properly lit, then the business owner is responsible for putting additional lighting, which they can either contact the private company or Energy to come out and bring an additional pole on that property. So we've gotten both of those questions, but we are not responsible for lighting. Energy our job is to hold them accountable, as well as DEMCO in certain areas.
Okay. Mr. Lanus.
Yes, ma'am. I would say absolutely. It is a part of my crime prevention plan, but also I think this is a matter of quality over quantity. We could talk about having more lighting, but I think that we have to talk about better lighting inside of those areas, because if you look at the current lighting systems that we're using right now, if you did have a camera, which a lot of people say, you can't see the person or anyone that may prevent or cause a crime inside of those areas. So I think that conversation needs to also start with, how do we bring about a better lighting system inside of those areas, especially those high crime areas.
Okay. And we're going to try to shift gears away from crime right now and go into economics. And the question is, what are your attainable plans for economic growth in District 5? And you know, you can just give us a brief answer because of time. We have quite a number of questions in the chat. So, Mr. Bengal.
Man, I need to go second so I can be able to explain my question. Anyway, so one of the things for economic development, again, it goes back into how we stimulate those businesses that are currently in existence. What are we doing to be able to make sure they're sustainable? We also have a plank road project right now where there's development on that corridor where members of the community should have been solicited with asking what specific business they would like to come to that community, specific on that development project. But business, again, it is holistic in terms of how we spark economic development. What we need to start is allowing folks in the community to buy these blighted properties instead of outside companies coming in and buying it at a low rate and then reselling at a higher rate. So we want to make sure we can start giving business opportunities to buy some of these businesses that are blighted properties. But I do believe that, again, it's going to come back down to just the educational piece and for the business to understand what particular resource they can have and what they can be able to do. And also allowing us to borrow money. I mean, a lot of the business in our community, we can't borrow money at the same rate as our counterparts. So allowing these businesses, these banks to work with our community partners and who wants to be able to be business owners, give them opportunity to obtain business loans so that they can be able to go back into their community. So until we're able to let these banks give us these loans and give us these resources, then we're going to be talking about this conversation, or we're going to be asking other businesses to come in our neighborhood. But I do believe there is opportunity for us to own our own businesses if we get given an opportunity. So I do want to make sure that we identify banks who are willing to give minority business owners a loan so they be able to open up business in this community.
Councilman Hurst.
So again, my whole plan for making District 5 and North Baton Rouge better is economic growth. So I'm gonna try to speed it up, but there's something called WSCA, Western States Contractual Alliance, where Louisiana pools 22, and they changed the name recently, but where 22 states It's held in Nevada. They pool their buying power to get the best cost for goods and services. So I've always asked, what are the 3 businesses in North Baton Rouge that everyone feels comfortable going to? 1 is Krispy Kreme, number 2 is Tony's, and number 3 is the airport. Why? Because they have a great facade, they have security, and they have a great product. But if you have a bad product, I can't help you. You're not a good business. But if you do have the other things, there are facade grants, there are signage grants. So what I want to teach them is how to do the same thing, which is where we create the micro business districts, which we've already started a partnership with NBR NED to go from Hooper Road to 190. So that's that Zion City corridor. So what we'll do is pool them. So we'll look at landscaping. So instead of paying $200, you pool your resources and you bid it out. So now you pay $100, not for grass cutting, but for landscaping. Same thing with new lighting. We're working with Energy to look at new lighting sources for their replicating some New Orleans French style lights to create their own look to their business districts. When you look at the Texas markets, which is another thing that we observed, the businesses look the same in the communities, but they have the same bricks, they have the same almost everything except for the shape of the building and signage. So pooling those resources to create that micro business district, if we do that, then we can take advantage of the programs that are in place, have a lower cost on the business owner, and still, even when you look at security, we can't afford a security guard because it costs us $40 an hour. But if we pooled our resources and we had 1 security guard monitoring 20 businesses, now we pay $40 a day. So it's just thinking outside of the box. That's for the businesses themselves. Now, Blight is a huge thing, which I've already started bringing back to the community. Blight removal program, where we torn down 3 houses, cleared several lots. No business is going to come to a blighted community. So you got to get the stains off of it first. You got to scrub it clean. Now, I do believe in putting businesses back into commerce where they can, but for businesses that have trees in them that are burned down, they got to be torn down. All right. So in the communities where it's houses, we teach about motor-owned process to make sure that those properties don't become blighted. If it's adjudicated, we teach them how to clear those titles and do those things through program that's already in existence. And when it comes to the individual, without going through a plethora of things, the program goes from welfare to disposable income in 2 to 4 years. No different. We give them a counselor. That counselor guides them along the path. We get rid of barriers like childcare and transportation. We look at GED. Then we provide, what does your career path look like, whether it be technical, college, 4-year college, or if you have a felony and can't take advantage of some of these programs, Louisiana Small Business Development Centers, entrepreneurship. The next phase is financial literacy, credit repair, home ownership. So when you talk about economic growth, it has to be the individual, the business corridors, and then the neighborhoods through creating associations and crime prevention districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lannis.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I guess the first place I start is something that can directly affect the citizens and the business owners or minority business owners inside of our community right now today is increasing minority participation in terms of contracts across our city. As it stands right now, our city does over $1 billion in contracts, but minorities make up less than 4%. And that's a huge problem. And when you look at women business owners, it's a lot less than that. So I think we have to really have look at it with a fine-tooth comb and really pay very close attention to that. As a sitting school board member, I amended the policy to increase minority participation for minority business owners to 50%, because I think that is very fair. And I think that it puts them in a position of power to have a seat at the table when you talk about contracts across our city. I think I talked about it earlier in terms of co-op associations, where our community has direct ownership of businesses such as grocery stores, movie theaters, eateries across our community. That way we have the direct power to impact the types of businesses that come into our areas. Imagine it this way. If you go inside of a store and somebody has a bad attitude, or let's say the produce inside of a store is bad, at every single stakeholder meeting that month, you have the power as a stakeholder to voice your opinion and make sure that those things are changed. This is not something that's going to be pie in the sky. It's happening already inside of New Orleans. It's already happening in Arizona, Minnesota, Washington, D.C. It just takes the initiative. It takes innovation. It also takes vision for us to move it forward. And I think that I'm the person to get that done.
Okay. And I want to go back to your comment, Councilman Hurst, about adjudicated properties. You mentioned that, and one of the questions that we had kind of said that the process is just too difficult for people to get those adjudicated properties and make something useful for them. So are you familiar with the process and could kind of agree or disagree that it is a lot of red tape for the average citizen to maneuver through?
It is very cumbersome. I purchased some myself as well. So it is. And so typically you go to the parish attorney's office, you would put in a bid. If the bid was accepted by the council, then you would send out letters to the homeowners. Where the process becomes really cumbersome sometimes is when there is a home that is not going through succession with heirs. And so we're working from a city perspective with a third-party company that's going to help clear that up. But once the letters go out and you give the heirs or whoever owns a home an opportunity to respond, it typically goes to bid. So you make an initial bid, but then it goes to public bid. Once they bid on that property, whoever the highest bidder is, it goes before the council. If we accept it, which 99.9% of the time we do, because we want the homes put back into commerce, then they get that process complete. And it can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I've seen it take much longer, depending on the aired issues that are associated with that adjudication process. But it does need to be remedied. Part of it is backlogs in parish attorney's office. So working on those processes as well.
When you say working on the processes, because I see another comment about those processes are antiquated and that we need to look at the whole process and make it easier because the community can help with blight when they're able to invest in those blighted properties. And but if the processes and no one to talk to walk them through the processes are clear, it makes it very difficult. And then you're hearing comments from negative comments from people, and sometimes the processes create the problems.
I agree 110%. I think 90% of the issues with government is government. So and that's what you put as an office to change, right? So I worked on some litter programs right now. I worked on some blight initiatives. I'm actually working with the parish attorneys behind the scenes and look at what we can do in terms of when houses are on fire, creating a 60-day program where they have to be inspected within 60 days by the insurance company, give the homeowner the next 60 days to tear it down. And if not, then we can go through the blight process. So some of these things you don't want to say publicly because you get held accountable for them, but there are laws that prevent these things from happening, and some of them on a state level. So as I'm going through this process, they're not all local. So it takes that partnership between local, state, and sometimes federal. And that's where relationships are so important. And so as it relates to blight, I agree. As it relates to adjudication, I agree. The processes are broken. Without going into a bunch of detail, I had the same conversation this week with Daryl, the parish attorneys, Chris Goranson with purchasing. And I told him I don't take no for an answer. My job is to represent my constituents and to improve these processes. And we want to work to figure it out. So everything you're talking about, without throwing people under the bus of the rug, we're already working on that. I agree 110%.
Okay, and I want to point this next question to Mr. Lanus because he talked about contracts, and that has always been like a sore eye for us when we're looking small business, minority business. We're looking for contracts that we never have an opportunity to get, and we always hear we don't get on the bid list, or we're not doing something correct. How do we get to the point where we are getting this $4 million or $4 billion of contracts? How are we getting a piece of the pie? How are we getting our seat at the table to obtain some of this issue? Because right now it's very, very low to none. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because you seem to have some passion about us going into that contract lane, and I like that.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. As I said before, as a sitting school board member, when you look at the minority contracts that came across our board, it was actually lower than what it was inside of the city. And one of the main things that it stood out to us was that when you look at the fair share program, we had to lift the minority participation, because that steers all contracts coming throughout our school system. And by doing so, we have now opened the table up for a lot more people to come to the table. And again, as I said before, I was the one that helped amend that policy. And then what that policy did was now we have 50% of all minority contracts coming through the Fair Share program. And I think that is an initiative that we have to also take, or perspective that we have to also take to the Metro Council. I am not one to believe the notion that we do not have qualified contractors that can do the same work that are minorities inside of our community, because we see them work every single day. They work for either different companies or they work for themselves. And I think it is literally a matter of effective communication and ensuring that, one, they understand what these programs are, how to find these programs, and how they can register and sign up for these programs on a regular basis. But two, ensuring that our community has the most in-depth information as it regards contracts across our city, because a lot of people still don't understand the fact that only less than 4% of all citywide contracts are going to minorities. Until we are able to tell that story and help change that narrative, I think that's when you're going to see real change happens. And that's another reason why I want to be the voice for District 5, to ensure that when we talk about minority contracts, we have those kind of conversations, that the conversation is not steered away, is not turned away by politics, and no one can be bamboozled throughout that process. It needs to be one where our community understands the complete effectiveness of what happens throughout a contractual process as it regards minority participants.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bengal, I'm gonna let you have this next question because it's relating to cats. And they say there doesn't seem to be enough benches at the bus stops or enough to cover the cats riders or the areas which are you, and I know you said earlier you were familiar with everywhere in Baton Rouge. And have you noticed that about cats?
In terms of the benches, well, many of these benches that are out there are from marketing companies, and specifically, there are a lack of benches. But again, until that becomes a priority, which I've never heard of it as a priority myself in terms of lack of benches. However, if it is, that's something that I'm sure we can have a conversation in terms of finding find those areas that need those benches. So this is the first time I've heard that that benches has been an issue. I've heard there need to be more routes on the bus routes in terms of knowing in terms of having a better system of the time or when the bus is going to come and all that. But I've not heard of a bench being an issue. But again, if it is an issue, that's something that I will be able to have a conversation with CATS administration to find out those areas that need these benches and make sure we put them there for those that are waiting for the bus.
Okay, thank you. And I think we're wrapping it up with this last question on what do you think the access are in the District 5, and do you have favorite spots? What do you enjoy about the district? So let's go with you, Councilman Hurst. Can you see the question?
I can. It says, what do you think the assets are in District number 5? Do you have favorite spots? What do you enjoy about the district? So I will tell you this. There are different spots in different areas. I live in the Monticello area, so when we talk about that side of the district, my access to Jerry Lee's Boudin, my access to the North Sherwood Forest Park. I think Breck has done a great job with improving our parks. I do believe that there needs to be more. There needs to be grocery stores. There needs to be movie theaters. There needs to be resources for fun in our community, not just what we have now. But what do I like? By the Charles R. Kelly Center, I'm a Tony's and Krispy Kreme lover. That's a big problem. But I do like that. So one of the challenges people want is the big box stores that come in our community. But I do like that because the big box stores don't come, it gives the small businesses an opportunity to grow and thrive and survive if they have a good product and a good plan. So I think that's been taken away from other areas in our community, those small businesses. So that is one of the other things that I do like, while I do think we need to grow and create opportunity for big box, as well as for all alternative entertainment to come to North Baton Rouge as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Lannis.
Yes, ma'am. I think that we have several assets throughout the District 5 community. I think one of which is Lily's Kitchen. I think that Cafe Jean Pierre is definitely another one. I think that TNT Smokehouse is another one. Tops Ultra Lounge is also another one. I think that we have several Black-owned eateries throughout District 5 that are staples throughout our community. But I think that we also have assets that people throughout District 5 commonly use, such as our Metro Airport. I think the Coca-Cola factory being in such close proximity to District 5 is also a true asset, because a lot of the people that live throughout that district or inside of this district, they also are employees of the Coca-Cola factory and also consumers of that product. So I think that while we do have several establishments throughout District 5, I think that we have tremendous room to grow and tremendous potential to see that those things take place. And I think that it is going to take the resources to see that those things move. Throughout this campaign, I have been endorsed by U.S. Congressman Troy Carter, who has said that by working with me, we can bring direct access and resources from Washington, D.C. right inside of District 5. And I think that he understands that potential of what we can do and how we can get those things done. And he understands that it's going to take a tremendous amount of leadership, wherewithal, and also understanding the practicality of how you move policy across the board. And I've done those things in the past, and I'm looking forward to continuing those things.
Great. Mr. Bengal.
Well, I want to start. I mean, the best assets we have in District 5 is the people who live there. Human resources is always the best resource. So we have a lot of people in our community in District 5 that have business owners in District 5. We have people in our community who are law-abiding citizens, who are paying taxpayers, who just love the community that they live in. And we start off with there, working with those type of people to make sure we can bring viable businesses, identifying that they want to live there. I have several places in District 5 that I like to hang out in for social time. I like to hang out in Zone, Dagger Shop on Plank Road. I like to eat at Krispy Kreme Donut. I like eating at Tony's. I like eating at Miss Lily's. I like to eat at John Pierre. I like to go to DC Eats. I mean, I like to eat at the Crawfish City. I mean, it's places all around District 5. But I would like to see those businesses have resources to put back into their storefront. And I think that is the disconnect that we're having, is that although they're good places to dine, we want to see them be able to thrive in a way where they can be have more opportunity to grow their bottom line dollar. And so some of them are very small places. So being able to get resources, be able to open up other businesses. I think it's time for us to have an investment, an inventory of all the businesses that we have in this community. I don't think they've been collectively organized to be able to get those resources so they can be attractive to a lot of the citizens in our community, which is why the dollar doesn't move around that many times in our area. People tend to go outside of the district to be able to have pleasures because of the fact that we haven't had the opportunity to put those resources in those businesses. And it's time for us to listen to the community in terms of what the community wants in the neighborhood. We have retired teachers in our community. We have people who make decent money, who make a great, decent living. And again, it's not all bad. Again, because we have poverty in certain parts of the community, it makes it seem as though that there's a great need. But there are a lot of people in our community who are hard workers, who take care of their family really well, and we need to be able to have things for them to go out and enjoy on their during their spare time.
Yes, and thank you for that. And on behalf of United Excel, I want to thank all of you for being such
Thank you.
Great panelists for tonight. I think you all had great ideas. I look like we can't go wrong in District 5, so we are looking forward to see who our councilman would be on this Saturday. So thank you. And now we'll turn you back over to Dr. Christy Perry for our benediction. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our candidates for tonight. And thank you so much, Rita Wright, for a wonderful moderation session. We encourage all of you to go out on Saturday and vote. We have 3 great candidates. They have presented their platforms to you all today. I feel they have informed you with the information necessary to decide on a prospective candidate. So thank you all for tuning in tonight for our Social Justice Town Hall. I would like to reiterate that our Social Justice Institute If you are excited about fighting for justice or passionate about fighting for justice, text UXL to 225-250-1970 and become a part of our team. We want to hear from you. Also, if you are a guest on our live tonight, please text guest to 225-250-1970. We would like to connect with you here at United Christian Faith Ministries. Also, stop by 9229 North Ridgewood. Stop by, visit with us. We have services 8 o'clock a.m. on Sunday morning as well as 11 o'clock a.m. We also have our prayer on Wednesdays at 6:30 and Bible study at 7 o'clock p.m. We have a wonderful Ablaze ministry for your youth. So stop by 9229 North Ridgewood. And thank you all for tuning in. And hopefully everyone remains safe in this weather. And go vote.
Thank you.